used to do them in school.
That's right, every morning.
That's been a while. Yes. Everybody's doing the countdown. That last minute takes about 87 seconds. Okay, good morning, everyone. I'll now call this meeting of the Sweetwater City Council to order. Ask Matt McGowan from Trinity Baptist Church to do invocation, and Councilman Castro to lead us in the pledges.
Dear Father, we come before you today. We commit this time to you. We lift up our city, its residents. We lift up its leaders. We commit the business of our city to you. We pray that we would be people characterized by faithfulness and fairness. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
If you follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance, I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
All right, we'll now move to item 4, which is discuss, consider, and act upon approval of minutes for the meeting held on May the 14th.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried and approved. Now move to item 5, which is to hear a presentation from Sean Martin with Atmos Energy regarding natural gas line work in Sweetwater. Morning, Sean.
Good morning, thank you, Mayor and Council. Sean Martin, Manager of Public Affairs with Atmos Energy, office of 1101 North Arnold Boulevard in Abilene. Since I get to kick this off, I'll respect for people's time, try to be brief, and if you have questions, feel free to ask or get in touch with me afterwards and we can address those. I've encouraged some city staff not to ask questions. No, I'm just kidding. The book that you have before you is our operations report. And we're making a concerted effort to let folks know what we're doing and where we're doing it at. And so the presentation provides, the PowerPoint provides very much a format like your book is set up. So some of these may be similar and some may be different, but we'll go through. So talking about investing in safety, obviously, yes, we're a natural gas company, but we're also a safety company, and that's first and foremost. On the slide here, you can see the different states we're located in. We are part of the Mid-Tex division based out of Dallas. And then, of course, you can see our other divisions there. Here's a little overview. Over the last 5 years, 80% of our capital investment has been in enhancing our safety and reliability of our system. As you guys know, water, sewer, infrastructure has deteriorates over time. And so we've made an effort since 2013 to invest in replacing some of that infrastructure. And we expect to spend between $9 and $10 billion over the next 5 years in the division. Again, this just, how does natural gas get to customers? Production, transmission, and then the distribution part, which is what we handle, getting the gas to the gas meters in homes and businesses. Different types of pipe, in case you just are interested in what's out underground. Years ago, it used to start in wood, many, many years ago. Gas traveled through wood and then eventually cast iron. And our goal as a company is to be completely cast iron free. And as far as we know, here in Sweetwater, we are cast iron free. Now, if we find it, we replace it immediately, of course. But now we're going with the high-density polyethylene, which is most common production now. Obviously, being green is something that's important to our communities that we serve. And so that's our goal, is a 50% reduction in methane emissions by 2035. Natural gas is one of the cleanest fossil fuels in existence. So it's a good thing that we're doing business with there, protecting the environment. There we go. All right. Just how leaks occur, obviously accidental damage by third parties or some of our contractors, obviously corrosion or environmental factors. When you get a lot of rain or something like that, you know, pipes shift, things happen. So different grades of leaks as well that we have. Grade 1, that's an immediate action. So that's when we call Grant and say, can you come on site? We've got gas blowing, something like that. And we take to eliminate that hazard. Grades 2 and 3 leaks are based on a repair timeline. So depending on what they're graded at is how we do that. You also see that we do conduct leak surveys. We've got the most up-to-date equipment. You've probably seen the Picaro car that drives around town with the little thing on top. It's more detection than doing our regular leak surveys. So we'll run a map sheet of that and make sure that we detect any leaks. Our employees are awesome, and that's what makes Atmos great. And they go through training at Gas City in Plano, and a lot of times they're up there training, and they do everything from learning how to read a meter to learning how to load a backhoe on a trailer. I mean, it's just unbelievable, the training facility that we have and the training that our guys receive, and hopefully it's reflected in your communities. Who we're regulated by, you know, PHMSA, the Railroad Commission, and those, obviously OSHA, the EPA. And the good thing is, I'm not here to ask for a rate increase, so we don't have to call the Railroad Commission yet, right? All right, again, technology, things we're doing with our iPhones, wireless meter reading, those are all things that we're looking at going to in the future as we replace our infrastructure. All right, so let's look at some expenditures in our division. You can see on the left the system makeup, what type of pipe we're trying to get to, which is that polyethylene, and then the amount of dollars and millions as a division since 2014 that we've invested in pipeline replacement. So in the Mid-Tex division, in our service territory, there's the amount of meters, the communities served, miles of pipe, number of employees, charitable giving, those sorts of things, just as an FYI there. Again, Mid-Tex division, we run all the way west to Colorado City, and then the West Texas division picks over from there. All right, obviously, our employees live and work in the community. Kids go to school here. I know our employees cooked hot dogs and filled the bus with school supplies last year, and have done many things in the community, and we want to continue to do that, support the fire department, police department, and continue to do that. And we encourage you to, and if there are ideas that you have that you think our employees need to be involved in, please let us do that. I nearly fell off the truck during the Christmas parade too, but. Also, our energy assistance program. Some people don't realize that you can round up your bill, and those energy assistance programs are available, called Sharing the Warmth, and Rolling Plains Management Corporation out of Abilene helps us deal those dollars out to customers who are in need. I encourage you to call 211. They can be hooked up there. So obviously, that's talking about our relationship with the Railroad Commission and our investors. But again, we do pass those costs along to customers to help us with our capital program as we can. All right, so here's what most people want to know is, okay, what am I responsible for in my yard? Or what are you guys responsible for as far as your deal? So the blue line indicates lines that we own. So we own the lines to the meter, okay? From the meter to the house is the customer side. And so as we've tried in these area replacements, if there's a meter that's in a bad location in the alley or a curb meter or something like that, we're moving that meter to the house at our expense for the customer, if they'll allow us to. So that's something that we're working on as part of this project. So everybody says, well, how come, let's say I call 811, I'm doing a yard project, but there's no marks in my yard for gas line. Well, that's because they're marking just for us to the meter. So, you can have those located otherwise. Oops. Thank you.
There you go.
Okay. So y'all may have seen Rosie and Gus during the Christmas parade. This is our new public affairs effort to inform people about what to do if you smell gas. Obviously, Rosie being a skunk, so if you see these signs, call 911 or our emergency contact number. And then Gus, call before you dig. There he goes. All right, so obviously call 811. And then the utility color codes there. If you've ever wondered what do these flags mean, there you go. So if you'll flip into the back page of your folder there, I want to highlight some things in regards to Sweetwater specifically. And you can see back in last fiscal year, kind of what was done. So in Sweetwater, 2,982 customers, 79 miles of pipe, obviously 16 employees, $1.3 million of expenditures in fiscal year 18. You will see a significant increase in that for this next fiscal year. So next year, when I'm back to present, you'll see that area replacement project numbers start to increase there. $4 million in capital expenditures since 14. And then 239 steel service line replacements. So right now we have 4 contract crews in town that are working on OptiMain projects, the area replacement projects. Plus we have some smaller contractors that are also working on continuing the steel service line replacement projects. So it's a busy time in Sweetwater. It's good that you guys are so willing. The city staff has been awesome to work with. And we continue, as things have come up that put a burden on the city, that's the last thing we want. So we have great communication, appreciate the feedback from staff and the council and David. So I hope that, next year we can come back and do this again with the latest update, and we can compare some numbers so you can see the progress that we've made, that we'll make in the next fiscal year. Okay? Thank you. Any questions?
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
I've got one question. Is the activity that we're seeing in town right now, was that previously scheduled, or was it related to an incident several months ago with the?
No, basically, as we looked at our system through our survey process, our annual surveys, we look at age of pipe, that sort of thing. So we increased our survey because of the incident, but found no emergent issues because of that. It was just, hey, we're here, let's do this town.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Thanks, sir. Okay, we'll now move to item 6A, which is discuss, consider, and act upon approval of agricultural lease of property within the southeast quarter of Section 41 and the northeast quarter of Section 44 in Block 22 of the TMP survey in Nolan County, Texas, to Mr. Brent Burnett. Any questions today?
morning.
Morning.
This is just a request for an agricultural lease from Brent Burnett. This is a lease that's been in the family since 1997. It's for 137.62 acres. It would run retroactive to January 1st of this year for 10 years, and there's two successive 5-year renewals that would also be allowed as we move forward. Leases for $344 a month. And so we're asking for your consideration of this agricultural lease this morning.
And I'm correct, that's $30 an acre per year?
I didn't do that calculation, but yeah, it's
It's about
probably,
29.
yeah, the impact would be about 4,128 on an annual basis.
Move approval of the lease.
Second motion, or the request.
Okay, any? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries and approved. Now move to item 6B, which is discuss, consider, and act upon approval of easement agreement revision for property situated in section 40, block 22, TMP survey, abstract number 1326, Nolan County, Texas.
This is to correct current easement that we have on the property. It doesn't take into account portions of a service road that is on the property. So this easement will take into account that service road. You can see it on that picture there. That darker black line is the new easement area, whereas the old one, it's not depicted on there, but it misses some of that south portion of the drive and on the northeast portion. So this is part of a capital improvement project with TxDOT. It's a 90%, 10% project where TxDOT pays 90%, we pay 10. This needs to happen in order for us to continue to get the plans approved and get our game fence constructed as part of an airport improvement project.
Motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is approved. City Manager's report.
Yes, sir. Just wanted to give the council an update. If you recall, there was a gentleman up here with his partner last month giving a presentation on a potential development related to tax credits, working with the state on tax credits. That project will be located on the southwest portion of town off of I-20. Just a little update on that. There's some deficiencies in the application that they sent to Austin, so they're working with the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs to try to get that taken care of, and so they'll be making an appeal to the state on that. So we're kind of on hold with that project. Just wanted to let everybody here know about that. The next item that we have to shine a light on is a fun one, the Rock the Block event. Just kind of want to remind everybody that it's going to be this Saturday, June 15th, from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. On Oak Street. And thank you to the businesses that are handling this and everybody involved with the chamber, the MDD, and so on and so forth. There'll be some music and food trucks and shopping and drinks and dancing and all that good stuff. So whenever items like this come up in Sweetwater, we want to be sure to shine a light on them because this is good for the community. So we just encourage everybody to have good, safe fun out there. Again, it's the Rock the Block event, Saturday, June 15th, from 7 to 9 p.m. And then the last item I have is something that the chief sent me. We had 5 of the 6 medic students receive their paramedic certifications from the state last week. The 6th one has one more test to take, and we're going to have those 6 through the years of school and clinicals. There's lots of work that went into getting them all through, and that includes all the guys at the station covering for them when they were away in class. So we just want to thank them for their hard work and dedication to this community, this department. And Chief, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
It's the only time in my marriage that my wife looked at me and she said, "It's not worth it. Just quit." And I said, "You know what? If that's what you really want, that's fine. In the morning, I will walk in and tell the chief I'm fine being an EMT, paramedic school is too much for my family and my kids and everything else. And by the next morning, she was like, you know what, we're almost through, we can make it. So don't say anything, but just know how hard it is. And these guys probably had it harder than I did back when I went through it a few years ago. They pressed on. None of them have come up and, you know, oh, it's just so hard. They've all been, you know, here's what we need to do. How can we get it done? What do we need to do and go and make it work? And they've all continued, kept their noses down and pushed. And it's been amazing to see the work that they've all done. And we've had one in online classes and then 5, you know, in-person classes driving every day down to San Angelo. The white truck that I used to have has I think it's actually over 250,000 miles on it now. And it's still somewhat going thanks to the barn, so that's good. But no, the work that they put in has been phenomenal. And they've kept going, and they've achieved what they were going after. So I'm very glad to see it.
How long a process is it, Grant?
It varies depending on when we can get them into school and stuff, but most of them it's been 2.5 years.
Wow.
And the clinicals that they have to do, it's not just going to school. They have to rack up enormous clinical hours, not only spend so much time, you know, writing out with San Angelo Fire Department, with us, with other things, but they also have to have so many patient contacts, pediatric, cardiac, medical, OB. Those contacts are not easy to get. You know, just all kinds of stuff, boxes that they have to check. It's a lot of work. Very proud of it.
Mr. Mayor, that's all we had.
Thank you, sir. Congratulations, young man.
Thank y'all.
Okay. Public input.
I might, if you don't mind.
Come on up here.
All right. Ken Becker with Seed MDD. Just wanted to give a quick update. If you remember the housing project, one of them's already under contract. Another is actually being seriously looked at. Probably the 3rd and 4th will get started to be built here in the near future, so we're pretty excited about that. The Sutherland update, we've talked to them. Scott Morgan gave me a call last week and said, is there any way we can get them to start cleaning up some stuff out there? It really looks a little rough. Got a hold of them within 30 minutes. They're going to get a new sign put up that says opening, you know, soon. They're going to take down the for sale sign and get the grass mowed, and construction's going to start. They hope to be open sometime in the first quarter of 2020. And I'm really glad these guys are here. As I get older, and that OB, I'm pretty sure he means obese. And so things like that, for me, that really helped. I'm glad they're trained to do that.
Thank you, kid.
Anyone else? All right. You want to move to 9 or?
We'll do that, sir.
Okay. Now move on to item 9A and B, which is to hear the budget presentation.
Test. 1, 2. Is it working?
See you later.
Yes, sir.
Have a good week.
All right, here we are. This is the presentation for the fiscal year 19 and fiscal year 2020. I'll say it again, fiscal year 2020 budget presentation. So we want to thank everybody for being here, staff and members of the public, especially mayor and council. This is for y'all. It's the city manager's budget until we hand it over to y'all, and y'all approve it, then it's the council's budget. So we're just getting started, and in fact, actually, the budget sessions never end. It's just, you know, we get to October 1st, and okay, we've got a new budget for the fiscal year, but Patty knows this, and Mark, it just keeps going and keeps going and keeps going until we get to this point where we formally start presenting numbers and items and requests and those types of things. So here we are. Always like to start off presentations, whether they're here to the council or to other outside groups, Rotary, Lines, etc., kind of a review of our mission statement and our value statement, which are both tied together. We've had this in place for about 3 years or so. We lead with trust and respect to provide a vibrant, secure community for all. It's a very succinct, I think very effective statement that this directors team came up with about 3 years ago when I first got here. But that mission statement doesn't mean anything unless you tie the values to it. You can accomplish a mission by lying and cheating and stealing your way to it. We choose not to accomplish our mission that way. We want to lead with trust and respect, to provide a vibrant, secure community for all. And we want to utilize our values of professionalism, integrity, continuous improvement, and teamwork to get that done, to accomplish our mission. What we will talk about today, kind of start off at the 30,000 foot level with all of the funds commingled together, and then we'll break it down from there to the general fund, the water utilities fund, which are the two largest, other items of interest, other funds, EMS, etc. We'll go over the budget calendar, which really kind of starts today with this presentation. And then we'll decisions to make, there's employees involved, there's a lot of money involved. But what you might get out of it by privatizing is, instead of doing the whole program yourself, you get a check once a month from the company and you cash it. You have to monitor their contract, making sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing as per the contract and the agreement. But it's something to consider. I'm not sold on the idea. I don't think staff is completely sold on it, but I think it's worthwhile to talk about and have a discussion about. I think we're at that point that either we go all in with refuse and get the trucks up to par and get what we need and invest potentially millions of dollars in that program, or think about turning it over to a private company that's what they do, and then we get a check every month from them for allowing them to do that work in our city. So it's worthy of a discussion. Just kind of throw that out there at this time. So the airport fueling pad at about 47 streets, tire loader at 60. The mower parks, we have other equipment, including a backhoe and water distribution at 110. 3 police vehicles. It's been how long, Brian? 2 or 3 years since we bought those? It's been 3? It's going on 3 years since we financed those vehicles. And so we're looking at potentially 3 additional at 177. A couple of pickups and streets and parks, a dump truck, like I mentioned earlier, 185, and residential refuse. Power lift for EMS at 50,000. A roof at the water distribution building at 30. Now these aren't all the requests. These are just some of them that made this table. But the total for all of the requests that we got this year or into fiscal 2020 was about $2.4 million from the director's team and the staff. And so that's kind of what we're looking at. To put that in perspective, our sales tax for the whole year is going to be about maybe 2.9, and that's sales tax. And my salary's paid with sales tax, and our salaries are paid with sales tax, and lights are kept on with sales tax. So if you threw everything that you had in 1 year in sales tax, you might get all of this, And so just to put it in perspective, that's a big number for a city our size. But these are all needs. They're not wants that the director's team they want because they want. These are needs, and we got to figure out a way to finance these, because the way that we do them a lot of the time is just kind of a pay as we go system. We have kind of gone a different philosophy with the vehicles that we bought 3 years ago, where we financed them. I don't think we had really done that type of structure before, but it is an option for us because we typically pay as we go, and it's just very difficult. You've seen our sales tax numbers are coming in low, our property tax rate is low, so we need to look at all of that holistically and say, where do we want to be in 5 years and 10 years? What kind of a city do we want to be? What kind of amenities do we want to offer? What kind of roads do we want to have? Park systems, those kinds of things. So the current fund balance year to date as of 4/30, kind of want y'all to see that top line with the general fund go all the way to the right. In those two numbers, the 2.4 and the 1.4, excuse me. Our ending fund balance. Well, let's go back. Ending fund balance year to date, the 3.9 number, and that's what that is. The ending fund balance year to date is the 3.9. Our policy calls for, is very typical for cities, particularly in the general fund, that you set aside 25% of prior year revenue as your fund balance. Just your emergency fund, if you will, in case something happens. You've got that amount of money at least in the bank so that you can pay the bills and continue paying the bills if something tragic happens. That number, that 25% of prior year revenue, is the 2.482207. So we have that. In addition to that, on top of that, we've got the 1.440872. So we've got our amount. We've hit our 25%. We're good there. We can check that box as far as the policy goes. But we have an amount above that of 1.44, and that money sitting there, we can let it sit there like we have over the years. We can spend it down a little bit to buy some one-time purchases. You don't wanna commit salaries to that are ongoing, because then it runs down pretty quickly. But is there a one-time purchase that we can utilize some of those funds for, that would help out one of our programs, fire department or refuse or police or whatever it could be? Do we just wanna leave it there and watch that money grow because we wanna be conservative with it, and you just never know what's gonna happen, and we gotta have that money in there just in case? So that's kind of a philosophical question as far as what we do, if anything, with that amount above the 25%. So we're healthy on the fund balance side. On the general fund, are you comfortable with that amount just being left in there? Do you want us to do something with it maybe, or you just want us to let it kind of ride like we have been? That's a question I'm kind of throwing out. We don't need an answer right now, but I think to start those types of discussions, I want to throw that on the table for your consideration. On the water and sewer side, that next row down, funds and savings of the 10.4 are very healthy on that side. Of course, everything's very expensive on the water side when you deal with the distribution system and chemicals and the plant and all that. So that's a good amount to have for us there. EMS and refuse, we could probably be doing better on that side. We'll get more in depth a little bit on that on the EMS side, and we kind of touched on refuse as well. But that's the main question that I wanted to include this table. The reason I wanted to include this table was to kind of get some conversation going on the general fund side. Are you comfortable with that, or do you want us to go maybe in a different direction than we have before? Without compromising our policy, without compromising, our status. So we do have to have money in there for a rainy day. It's just, how much above that 25% are you comfortable with? The fiscal year 2020 budget issues, always the impact of the sales tax. We'll review the general fund balance, which is I'll just spend a few minutes talking about here. Review the property tax rate. We get one opportunity a year to do that, keep it the same, lower it, raise it a little bit. Do we want a multi-year kind of strategy, to go up a penny and a half, or 2 pennies a year for X number of years until we get to a certain point? If we're going to be selling bonds, we have to keep that in mind, because we do have capacity for that, because right now that 49.7 is all on the maintenance and operations side. So lots to talk about on that from that aspect. Extensive review of all rates, fees, and fines. And I'll get into a little bit more on that on the water and wastewater side here in the next few slides. And as always, we want to continue to look for efficiencies with limited impact on services. Everybody wants their taxes low, but they want high levels of services. We try to provide that when we can, where we can. Sometimes, frankly, it's just not always possible. It's one or the other. And so our community needs to kind of make a decision on, are they willing to pay for some of these things that they want, or are they okay with opting for? Okay, switching gears to the water utility side. And that's the sewer plant, I believe. They do great work out there. It's hard work out there. And so we applaud the gentlemen that work out there on a daily basis. They're way out there, and their work's never seen, but if they weren't doing what they're doing, people would notice. I'll tell you that right now. The water and wastewater is kind of starting from that 30,000-foot view on this fund. The revenues of the 7.5, expenses of 8.9. We have an unreserved balance of $19 million and a reserved restricted balance. These are all budgeted fiscal year 19 numbers of about $2.25 million. Excuse me. Water and wastewater fund revenues and other financing sources. You'll see the bottom number is the 7.6. The charges for services is the vast amount of that. Everybody pays their water bills at the 7.425 budgeted for fiscal 19. So I didn't even bother making a pie chart, because it would all be charges for services. That's where you get your revenue from on the water side. It's a little different than the just a quick note on the top 10 water consumers for fiscal year ended 18. The consumption is in thousands, so the city of Bron at 98.4 million gallons a year for fiscal year ended in 18. And then you'll see the usual suspects, USG, Georgia Pacific at the 84 million, 52 million, Roby and Trans, Sweetwater ISD, the Housing Authority, the hospital, Mustang Heights, and then none of them transported about 4 million gallons per year. So just FYI, these are the top 10 customers on the water side for the city of Sweetwater. A little bit about the rates. This is from a TML survey from this year, 2019. These are our peer cities between 10,000 and 15,000 population, which we fit right into. 39, the number was 39 of those cities were surveyed on residential rates and commercial rates. This table reflects residential rates at 5,000 and 10,000 gallons of consumption. The peer averages you'll see on that top row where we are at the 41 and 79 and the percent over or under we are when related to the peer group. We're 18% over for 5,000 gallon residential consumption, and we are 28% over 10,000 gallon consumption when compared to our peer group of cities, according to this TML survey. So we're a little higher on residential water usage. You'll see that residential on the wastewater usage, 5,000 gallon residential, we're about 11% over our peer group. On the 10,000 gallon, we're about 14% under what the peer group pays. So there's a little bit of room to maneuver should we decide to do that on the 10,000 residential wastewater side. And then on the commercial side, they typically use more, so the comparisons are at 50,000 gallons and 200,000 gallons on the water side. We're 14% over our peer group for 50. And we're right at the mean, and 3% over the 200,000 gallon usage for our peer group on the commercial side. And for wastewater, we are 31% below the peer average for 50,000 gallons wastewater, and 52% below on the 200,000 gallon consumption per usage on the wastewater side. So there could be a significant room to maneuver on the commercial wastewater rate side if we so chose. On the expense side for water and wastewater fund, it's all pretty even. It costs a lot of money to run this program. You've got your billing and collections, you've got the water that you've got to get, the source of supply, the purification plant, the water plant, the distribution system, the wastewater collection system, the wastewater treatment is a very expensive, very complex issue. And then your debt service, we don't have, like I said, debt service on the general fund side at this point, but we do have debt service on the water side because everything is just so expensive, and I'll outline that here in a minute. So that fiscal year budgeted amount for wastewater fund expenditures is right about $8.9 million. And then here are the certificates of obligation that are outstanding. The description on the left, sewer, and just look at the description of the projects: the sewer and water work system, well field development, water treatment, distribution, well field development, elevated storage tank, and system improvements. Those are all very, very important components of a water and wastewater system, and you're not going to pay them as you go because they're just so expensive. And we all understand that. The date of issuance is the date that those COs mature, the amount of the original issue. You're looking at 23.2 that was out between 11 and 2016, and then the bond principal that's payable at the end of this fiscal year is the 13.3 still outstanding, and we have those payments budgeted for in the fiscal year 19 budget. Fiscal year 20 will be as well. So those are the outstanding COs we have in the water and wastewater system. But that's money well spent. Water is also like place of fire, life, and death, and just can't do without it. Wastewater as well. Other items of interest. On the EMS side, comparison of audited figures for the fiscal year 2014 you see a lot of red on there. EMS is typically a very complex and challenging program to administer. You've got our paramedics and EMTs going out there doing what they do. Like we mentioned this morning, they're getting trained and they're highly trained individuals, and they do what they do and get the patient where they need to be and get them the proper care and all that. But then there's the business side that kicks in, where the bills start going out and the insurance starts getting contacted, and that's just another animal right there. And so a lot of those challenges are reflected in these numbers, in our operating revenue and total expenses. As you look at the operating income loss on that third line, on that third row, you see a lot of red there. We got transfers in from the city, from the county, and Roscoe, is that right, Patty? And so that helps the bottom line, but we're still, as you see, on that last row, as far as the fund balance goes, we're still having a lot of challenges there on the EMS side. So, and I'm throwing a lot out on the table, but that's something we need to look at as well. Grant, you want to say something?
Just a quick, the reason for this that I've seen is many fold. The cost of drugs, we used to be able to get an amp of morphine for $0.25. Now it's $40. It's crazy. The FDA has gone through, and all of the drugs, a bag of saline that used to be $1.50 is now, infinitely higher. The Department of State Health Services now require that we keep the ambulances at a certain temperature if the drugs are going to be on there, because the FDA says that the drug has to be between 70 and 78 degrees. So we have to add, $50,000 to the price of a new ambulance to get an air conditioning system that will keep the box that temperature all the time. Insurance now, fewer and fewer people have insurance. Fewer than that have adequate insurance, which will cover an ambulance bill. It's just gone up everywhere. The schooling that these guys go through now, whereas with me it was 9 months, now it's 2 full years, and a lot more stuff goes along with it. It's just gone up everywhere we look. The price of EMS has gone up, and the recuperation of money from the runs that we made. The run numbers haven't gone down. We haven't run less, and just charged more. The money we get, the money we recoup, is gone down.
So it's a complex issue, and we need to do our best to get a handle on it. And so we'll be throwing out some strategies on how we could possibly do that. Collections is a big part of that. Trying to keep costs down is going to be a big part of that as well. It's not all about the money, because you are dealing with people's lives, as I mentioned before, but it's still an enterprise, it's still a business, and we've got to make the most efficient use of the dollars we have to get some things done. And so we'll be bringing maybe some strategies, Grant, on the EMS side to try to get a handle on the business side. The operations side, the guys do a great job, so thank you for what you do. The Employee Benefit Fund, we're lucky that we have a partially self-insured fund to go off of, especially for a city our size. That's a good thing. We're generally doing pretty well on that side. You can never tell what's going to happen and how somebody's health is going to affect some of the dollars and cents that go into this fund. We have good quarters and bad quarters, and good years and bad years, but that's just the nature of this type of a fund. You try to mitigate some of your risks there, but you can't always do that. But for the most part, we're in pretty good shape with that. I'd like to see this fund continue going. We work with consultants, and they generally put us in a good spot going forward, and give us good advice on how to manage the fund. And then hotel motel tax, you just see this graphically from 09 to fiscal year end 18. We're collecting 13 hotels and motels here in Sweetwater. You see that upwards trend until about 16, then it went down in fiscal 17 and back on demand in fiscal 18. And we'll have those fiscal 19 numbers at the end of this fiscal year and into next. So it's headed in the right direction, at least from 17 to 18. We hope that continues after just a little blip between 16 and 17. Just to go over the budget calendar, today really is kind of the first day of the public part of that. We've been working on this for a while and continue to do so. It really never ends, like I mentioned previously. But today was a budget workshop on July 25th. As I mentioned earlier, the chief appraiser certifies the tax rolls and calculates the effective and the rollback rates. The proposed budget will be presented to the council and will set public hearing date for September 10th. We'll do all that on August 13th meeting, so we're about 60 days out from that or so. On August 19th, we'll have notice of a public hearing on the budget in the newspaper and notice of property tax rates and dates of the 2 public hearings. And then we'll have our 3 meetings in a row that we typically have in September on those Tuesdays to go over the first reading on the appropriation ordinance, the rate schedule, the budget ordinance, the ordinance to amend the fiscal year 19 budget, and the first public hearing on the proposed tax rate. We'll have that on September 10th. September 17th will be the first reading on the tax rate ordinance, second public hearing on proposed tax rate, second reading and adoption of budget ordinance, appropriation ordinance, and rate schedule, second reading and adoption of ordinance to amend the fiscal year 19 budget, September 17th. September 24th, second reading of the tax rate ordinance and final adoption of the tax rate. And then a week later, we are there, October 1st, first day of fiscal year 20. So, all that being said, is there anything that we can answer for you, any direction you want to give us on any of these items? We're happy to hear it, discuss it, answer it, whatever we got to do, research it.
I'd sure like to know the cost of the difference between the refuge of the privatized versus what we're doing here.
Yes, sir. We can get that done.
I believe some of the, not these two, but some of the firemen, they have their own private refuge collection at Lake Sweetwater. And I know a number of the citizens out there have that. Might be a place to start. Easy place to start.
Refuse, it's a big one, and there's a lot of money coming from us on trucks and equipment, and it's all coming due at one time. And so I think the time's right for the discussion. Either we're gonna invest the millions of dollars and get our fleet up to where it needs to be, or we're gonna explore privatization, where companies like Public Services and some of the others, that's all they do, that's their business. You know, they can have a fleet down here in a few days and get going, you know, because that's their primary business. Not saying our guys don't do a good job and have done a great job over the years, they do. It's a business. It would be a business decision if we were to go that route, but I think it's worth exploring. I don't have any preconceived notions whether we should keep the program or turn it over. But I'm open. I think we all are open to possibilities and hearing from people and asking and getting questions answered and all that. So.
What kind of
like
commitments do we have to Snyder as far as their landfill? I mean, can we take 90 days notice to get out of that contract, or do you know right off the top of your head?
I don't. I don't know if there's a put or pay minimum on that contract. We'll take a look at it, Dana, and let you know. But there has to be.
They broke that contract whenever they raised the prices without any notice, so we made them, but we just continued on, so it may be.
Maybe.
Well, whoever takes it over is probably gonna have to use the service anyway.
The dump in Snyder.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's the landfill in Abilene's owned by Republic, so
Oh,
if
it is,
it was
okay.
Republic, they would
They'd go to Abilene.
take it to theirs, yes, sir. But if it's not, if somebody else, they may go to Snyder anyway. Snyder might not miss much of a beat. But that's all part of the discussion. We've got to figure things out like that, like the contract, put or pay, you know, how many days to get out of it. I've been through this process before in the previous city I worked in, and it's these people are very competitive. I know that. They'll do what they need to do to get on your radar as far as hey, we can do it. Listen to us. Let's go to lunch, kind of thing. So, but we'll put a backstop to that for y'all, and we'll deal with all that nice. But
Is there a reason that the unreserved balance in the water fund is so much? That we keep that big a balance?
Well, there are note savings, we're still in the middle of the construction, so there's some savings, we got the bond money, and we haven't spent it yet on the tower. So, yeah, it's built up.
Okay.
Should complete that project.
Is there any reason we've stayed so far under the average peer group on the wastewater rates over the years? 52% under.
I don't know, there's a reason, I think that, let me get to my microphone.
I think that has to do with the primary users of USG and Georgia Pacific. They use all of their water anyways. They don't actually have sewer to it. Is the reason that's that way. Yeah, I'm sorry.
The wastewater is calculated on the amount of the water that they use. And so the more water they use, the higher their bill is on the wastewater side. And so it's calculated that way.
And also like USG, that we only, a small portion of their water goes towards sewer. And like Jim said, Georgia Pacific, they won't have any, and, you know, we don't charge sewer to, Trent or Roby one, so. We just kinda, and the other commercial users is not a lot, you know.
But that's always something that we look at is at this juncture and even before is, you know, are we where we need to be? And where we are in relation to the peer cities is part of it. But we've got to, at the same time, we've got to do what's right for Sweetwater as well. So we'll be taking a look at all the fines and fees and bringing y'all some proposed amendments to that, which may include some sewer amendments on the commercial side as well. Anything else on the budget as we move forward? If not, we can load up Sage's water PowerPoint.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor and Council. Good to see everybody today. Before we get started on this presentation right quick, I want to tell you, I was at my 8-year-old son's baseball game last night, and isn't it amazing how some parents think it's the World Series? It was pretty intense, I tell you. We didn't win, but it was a good game. Okay, so I have a few slides here for you talking about update on the utility system projects. Moving here, this is kind of the agenda we'll cover. The groundwater supply from city wells, surface water, and then what we're doing to protect those supplies, the current projects that we have going on that are under construction, and also the projects that are planned for the upcoming year and following years. So looking here, over the last year, from March to March, the average of the water demands or water use in the system was 2.13 million gallons per day. Low was 1.9, high was 2.7. The groundwater wells were utilized a great deal. 75% of the overall water use came from the groundwater sources. 25% coming from surface water. If you will recall, years ago there was a GAM model done, that's groundwater aquifer modeling, or model that was completed, and it showed that the safe yield for short-term period up to 24 months was about 2.5 million gallons per day, and long-term safe yield was about 1.8 million gallons a day. So currently our average has been about 1.63. So we're under that, meaning we're in good territory. Surface water supply is as we all know, has been great over the last couple of years. We've really built up those reserves, and looking at moving to utilizing more of the surface water in the upcoming years. With that, and we'll cover that in upcoming slides, but some additional improvements at the water plant are proposed for replacement of the remaining membranes that would allow us to treat additional water. This is the table of the summary of the levels in the water wells, and then you'll see that the key point here, some are a little higher, some are a little lower. 75% of our demand has been coming from groundwater. So to see that our average increase in static levels is about 0.4 feet, that's really good. To be 75% of our supply coming from the groundwater and then maintaining those levels, that's really good. I've provided you a handout that shows, let me go back here, showing the water wells levels. That's the 11 by 17 graphs. They don't display well on the PowerPoint, but we work closely with staff on measuring the levels of the static levels in the aquifers or in the wells, and we do that annually, and you can see how they fluctuate over the years. But right now, with all the rainfall that we've had, the recharge has been really good. The water, surface water supplies shown here on this slide. Obviously, we've had really good rainfall. Looking down there at the bottom right, the 2019 showing all 3 lakes being full. On the left-hand side, showing the rain report. Back in 17, we had what would probably averaged about 7 inches, something like that, total for the year. And all of 18, we had 33 inches roughly. And then this year so far, we've had 10 to 12 across the different rain gauges in the system. So rainfall has been great. It's a blessing. We're thankful to have it. And the surface water is in great condition. One thing to keep in mind with the City of Sweetwater's water situation is that it's great to have conjunctive use of groundwater and surface water. We are in a semi-arid region of the state. Sweetwater is better positioned than a lot of other entities of having both of those sources. And the planning that was done years ago to implement both of those was well thought out and is a benefit to the city, something to be proud of. Here are a couple of beautiful pictures here showing the reservoirs being filled to capacity and overrunning. Oak Creek has been overflowing since October of 18. Sweetwater since November of 18. Trammell since September of 18. So that's a beautiful sight. Sometimes we wish we could kind of spread it out a little bit more, but it's hard to complain about having lakes full. Here's a USGS graph of the surface levels in Oak Creek, going back to 2014 to the current, 2019. That's a trend in the right direction. Photos of Oak Creek back in June 3rd of 2019, or in May of 18, we were 11.9 feet below the spillway. In June 3rd of 19, we were 5.9 above the spillway. Protection of the water supplies. Obviously, having the supply or having the source water is critical, but also taking care of that water and being good stewards of that water is critical as well. In calendar year 2018, there were 78 leaks repaired in the system. Distribution crews are always out repairing leaks, also replacing meters. In regards to budgeting, obviously having accurate meters out in the water system is critical. Over time, as those meters get older, they tend to to register less efficiently or less accurately, and therefore you want to replace your meters over periods of time. You know, and it's always the city's intent to bill or to meter accurately. Don't want to over meter. You don't want to under meter. We want to meter accurately, and so replacing those meters is an important part of that system. In calendar year 2018, 521 meters were replaced by city crews. Current projects going on: well field improvements, skater improvements, elevated storage tank, membrane replacement phase 1, water line replacement, and chloramine boosting station. We'll get into all of these. These are all funded in part by the Water Development Board. And if you will recall, the chloramine boosting station, the water line replacement, and the SCADA improvements, we had put that out for bid earlier this year. Bids came in really high. That was all combined into one project. So that what we've done since then, we've taken those into 3 separate contracts, and we're going to do sealed proposals. Those projects are currently being reviewed by the Water Development Board. I anticipate approval hopefully next week. Then we'll move into soliciting proposals and then come back to council for consideration on moving forward with those projects. Wellfield improvement project. The city maintains a database of the well information. We talked about how important that is to the overall water supply in the system. So rehabbing wells periodically is important, and currently the city is budgeting about $75,000 for the next 5 years in capital improvements, which is about rehabbing 5 to 6 wells per year. That's an important part of maintaining good flow into the wells, so they don't become blinded over time where your production becomes less. Got to continually put money into the well field to maintain that supply. Here are a few of the improvements that are the rehab that is done on the wells. There's chemical treatments that are done periodically, mechanical cleaning, obviously pump and motor replacement, that's done, flow meter repairs, electrical repairs. So it's a ongoing cost into the system, but obviously it's key to our overall water supply. So the rehab plan includes modeling of the well field. That includes maintaining good database or good records of the static levels, which you've seen. We're continuing to keep that updated. Flow rates of the wells, the drawdown level, all that goes into monitoring the long-term health of the aquifer. So the SCADA improvement project, we've talked about that multiple times. That's going to improve communication and monitoring of the well field. There's $700,000 budgeted for that. The radio replacement and tower installation, the critical infrastructure needed in order to transmit well field control and monitoring, that all go to the HMI at the water plant. That'll help improve the delivery of the water from the source of supply to water customers. Once again, those plans are currently being reviewed by the Water Development Board. Hope to have approval to advertise those here in the upcoming weeks. Elevated storage tank. We are continuing to make the valve installation out into the system. The contractor has done everything he's required to do to this point. What we're waiting on is the valve delivery. Those are clay valves. They're the manufacturer. These valves are being manufactured in California. Clay Valve is a huge company. They supply valves all over the world, and we have pushed and pushed to get them to provide the valves a little quicker. I was told that they were shipped last week. I anticipate they will ship to the vault manufacturer. Valves go into the vaults. Vaults will be delivered to the site. Contractor will put them in. So we're continuing to push. We're very close to getting that done. We're all ready to get that done. The membrane replacement project, 2 phases. Phase 1 was replacement of 4 MGD of capacity. That has been completed. But with the TCEQ approval, there's additional testing that has to be done. It's standard. They attach all the testing into approval, the TCEQ approval letters. It's, in my opinion, it's one way for them to continually gain more and more information from systems. It costs the city money. It's good information, but it is and kind of a cost that is not always anticipated. But so the first phase of that testing has been completed, and I believe the next phase will be completed in the next quarter. And then at that point, all of that will be wrapped up, submitted to TCEQ, and that phase 1 will be complete. The membrane's been performing well, would you say, Mr. Campbell? And if you will also recall, there are 2 more trains, 2 MGD each. That's 4 additional MGD of capacity of the older membranes. Now, at one time, we did not think that TCEQ was going to allow us to use the new membranes and the old membranes at the same time. We were able to negotiate that and get that approval. City staff has been continuing to utilize the older membranes as well to complement the new membranes, but they're beginning to have more and more fiber breaks, beginning to be more and more of a maintenance issue, and therefore planning has started to replace those last 2 trains of membranes. Funding for that has been submitted to the Water Development Board here at the last, I think it was March 3rd when those applications were due. So we should be hearing in the next month or 2, the city ought to be getting a letter, an invitation to move forward with that loan offering. It will be a loan offering. Usually it's discounted 1% from market. It'll be something the city will have opportunity to consider. So we anticipate those letters coming out in the next month or 2. It is estimated for the next 4 MGD of capacity of $1.5 million is what's estimated on that. The remaining money, I've touched on this briefly, but there's about $1.5 million left of the Water Development Board money that has been allocated already. $700,000 projected for the skate improvement, 4 to 6 for the water line improvements. Those streets are listed there. And then about $100,000 for the chloramine boosting station. Water line replacement that was just mentioned. Streets are identified here on the map. Overall, it's about 6,000 linear feet. What we propose to do, we'll have a base bid, and then we'll have additive alternates. That'll kind of give the city a little bit of flexibility on which award to make. And also, one thing to note, the way that we are approaching these 3 contracts is through proposals. So those proposals will be ranked based upon criteria that are listed in the proposal evaluations: price, experience, schedule, different things, and it allow the city a little bit more flexibility on negotiating these contracts and moving forward. Overall, this is an overall map, a little hard to see, but showing the water line replacement, showing the chloramine boosting station out near the airport. Right quick, this is the CDBG project, the grant project that was completed recently, showing the water lines that were replaced. CDBG grant program is good. It's great that the city pursues that funding. Some of those grant projects have a lot of hoops to jump through, a lot of documentation, but that's what we do. So that project, I believe, went well. Contractor did a good job, and that project has been closed out. So future projects. I had mentioned the Water Development Board applications that have been submitted as of March 3rd. Those on the water side would be for raw water pump replacement, line replacement, membrane replacement, PLC upgrades, and additional water line replacements. We all know the city has a vast water distribution system, and replacement of those lines is ongoing. At at the wastewater plant, so, or on the water side, with the Water Development Board, that's under the DWSRF program. On the wastewater side, it's under the Clean Water, which is wastewater, but it's Clean Water SRF, CWSRF. That amount of the application was 2.0 million for the bar screen replacement, improvements for the SBR control system, aeration, blower, UV system, pumps and piping replacement, PLC upgrades, and then in the collection system, another $1 million for pipe replacement and manhole replacement. One good thing about the SRF program, we submit the applications at no cost to the city. The city will get the offering, and then the city can determine. There's some flexibility on what it is. You're not locked into anything until you actually close on the money. So there's still some chance for a little variation in there if so choose. Right quick. One thing I want to mention, it was mentioned earlier about the rates and how the city compares to other rates on that TML study, on that survey. One thing to keep in mind is you really need to know the health of the system for some of those cities that have low rates. Too many times, cities don't want to raise rates, and so therefore they get behind on the health of their infrastructure system. The infrastructure system it requires continued investment. It's just like a vehicle. If you don't maintain your vehicle, your vehicle is going to break down, and then you're going to have a huge cost to do a full replacement. Some of these cities wait, and they don't do a little bit every year. They don't slowly increase their rates, and after 10 years or 20 years, now they got to make a big jump, and they have a big increase. So just keep that in mind, is not only, maintaining low rates, but maintaining adequate rates and a healthy system. Those kind of have to balance. So the wastewater improvements the application that was submitted, back in May of 2017, we worked with city staff on doing a wastewater treatment plant evaluation, going through step by step, looking at the equipment and looking at making recommendations on equipment that need to be replaced. And that's where we came to the application. And a lot of those items that were recommended for replacement were included in the application. They're listed here again, and this is a high, they list high on the utility CIP priority list for the wastewater plant. I won't go over those again, but those are listed. This is the last slide I have, and this is similar to what we had last year. I don't have a lot of updates on these items, other than the well field is a critical part of the system. The city may want to continue to look for additional acreage for development of additional wells. That's been discussed and recommended for quite some time now, and it's something that needs to be on the radar. Cedar Ridge Reservoir, that's a long-term reservoir project that is being pursued. It's in environmental review phases. If that is going to come to fruition, that'll be a long-term planning type process. It's very hard to get new reservoirs permitted and approved. I know that that is continually being ongoing process, and we'll see where that ends up. West Texas Partnership, the lead entities are San Angelo, Midland, Abilene, looking at water availability and planning for this whole region. As that moves forward, I know there's been some items or some plans that have been put forth in the future. I know that some of the cities in this area will be obviously they are accounted for, but if anything were to go moving forward, then definitely the cities would be approached, get input and plans put forward. Brazos G Regional Water Plan. We're looking, that's the actual 2022 state water plan. And Sweetwater, as always, is identified as having supply needs met in conjunction with the city of Abilene. that's what I have for this presentation. If there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer those. All right. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Streets.
Oh, yes, sir. Got one more. Okay, last year, we had done, Mr. Vella had touched on it, there was a roadway evaluation that was completed. I believe it was about 15 and a half miles throughout the city that were evaluated, just visual evaluation, looking at ride quality. We provided a pavement evaluation to the city and looked at some of the highly traveled alternate routes, Lamar and Neff, Broadway, First Street, Hoyt Street. We provided that summary to the city. We went over it last year. Once again, that was a visual inspection. It included evaluation of some of the existing utilities. Obviously, you don't want to go out and repave a bunch of roadways if you have poor utilities underneath it. That's one thing that we included in the cost estimates. The area map is shown here. This is the overall area. Still kind of hard to read because that map doesn't scale well, but 15 and a half miles roughly throughout town. That was the evaluation area. Let me go back here. We included project costs, and I'll touch on those in just a second. One thing that was mentioned also in Mr. Vella's report is phase 2. One thing to really get honing in on the cost estimates are the traffic counts, looking at which roadways get the most traffic, and that helps establish thicknesses of pavement design, base design, and it also helps you kind of prioritize maybe which roadways to rank highest on priority, which ones you might do first. Also, subsurface investigation, we really kind of need to know how thick some of the existing base is on some of these streets. Some streets may not have any base, some streets may have good base. If we could utilize some of that existing base material, that should help drive the cost down a little bit. Might go in there and either lime treat or cement stabilize some of that existing base, or blend some new and recompact it and not have to haul in all new base material. That's a large cost savings. Visual inspection about 15 and a half miles. That is the main intent of this study was to maintain or restore overall ride quality and function of the city streets. We did an estimation on the existing utilities and what that would cost for replacement, and then we put together overall cost estimate. That's the area map. Here's the cost estimate for that project area. Some big numbers. On the roadway side, paving improvements was $16 million roughly, and the utilities is about $5 to $6 million. And one thing I want you to keep in mind, those were 2018 dollars. What we generally look at recommending for budgeting purposes is about 3 to 5% cost increase per year. It's not always that high, but it's kind of good to budget that way. I do know, had a contractor tell me just recently that they went to buy a hot mix for a project, and the plant had gone up 25% on their cost at the plant this year. So that's significant, and it makes a big difference. Now, as we all know, petroleum prices go up and down. Next year it may not be as high, hopefully not, but it's just one thing to keep in mind. That's what I have for the pavement evaluation. If there's anything else or anything I didn't touch on, answer any questions, but that's what we have so far. Thank you all very much.
Thanks, sir. A motion to adjourn.
I do have one question. These estimates on street improvement, does that include any new curbing?
No, sir. No, sir. That's pavement only.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.